that we've got Professor Hamamoto back with us. We are vibing on the blue frequency this evening. And some of the subjects that we will be talking about include Fourth Reich anxiety. We have got J-Lo is about to face a court grilling in the Diddy trial as his team fights to dismiss evidence from the infamous 1999 New York club shooting, a case we've covered extensively on this channel. And we've also got Harvey Weinstein, who is about to appear in court for his trial. And we've got Seth, one of Harvey Weinstein's spies, coming on Wednesday. And he's going to disclose recordings with, what is it name, Rose McGowan, and emails and all this. He's got all this inside information he's going to drop upon my channel. So we'll see how that goes down. And it's been a few months since we had the professor on. I'm going to put his channel link. It's in the description box, folks, if you want to subscribe. You can also watch his other parts. You can find his Facebook and the bibliography of all the books he's recommended so far over the course of these streams is in the description box on YouTube as well. So, good to see you, my friend.
Mr. Atwood, nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me back. We're going to have a lot to talk about so far as anxiety is concerned. I think the anxiety is really the driver of the massive public, international, really, interest in these interlocking trials that you alluded to. So for my contribution, I thought I would talk about, since we're talking, it's Easter Sunday weekend, I thought we would perhaps talk about more lighthearted topics like sex magic, Santeria voodoo, right? And conspiracy theory in its integral relationship to hip-hop. There would be no hip-hop without conspiracy theory. So these are all intersecting vectors of this military-industrial anxiety complex. And the public is crying for some sort of resolution. Now, whether it's going to come to the judicial system or not, that's up for grabs. I mean, I have my own opinion on it. But I thought in preparation in this run-up, right? Most of you know, your viewers know that Harvey Weinstein is being retried, or his case has been reopened. And in looking into the background, I vaguely remembered that Jezebel Lopez was at some point involved with Santeria, right? This is an Afro-Caribbean folk religion that migrated to the U.S. There's Harvey Weinstein. Humble Harv, right? It migrated to major metropolitan areas such as New York City, along with the great Puerto Rican diaspora, of which Jezebel Lopez's families are part of that, right? And she makes much of the fact that she is a proud and brown Puerto Riqueña, along with AOC Cortez, right? So it's the Puerto Rican sort of move into the power structure. So how is this being facilitated? Well, in her case, we're talking about J-Lo. I'll use her acronym. Her magic lie in this tradition called Santeria. And it's been maligned in a lot of the popular literature. I had a colleague over at UC Davis. He's now at Harvard School of Divinity, but he made his reputation on the study of Ifa. It's a African folk religion. Comes from Nigeria, and again, it's also gone global, right? And we can see the cultural, sort of the watered down expressions of Santeria in J-Lo's dance routines, her music, the rhythms. It's Afro-Caribbean. That's Puerto Rican culture itself. It's a melange of the African, the European, and the indigenous, and even the Asian. There's Chinese in Puerto Rico, although you wouldn't find very much reference to that in the popular culture. So it would be only natural that someone like J-Lo would draw on this tradition in order to advance herself personally and professionally. And this is where it intersects with Sean Combs, otherwise known as P. Diddy, because he also represents a certain stream of the African diaspora, probably Yoruba, which is grounded in these folk religions over which was overlaid Christianity, including Catholicism. I think both P. Diddy and J-Lo claim Roman Catholicism as their official religion. But within that, there's this syncretic that is a combination of these different traditions, frankly, pagan versus Christian. But we also see these syncretisms visible in the current Catholic Church, with the Pope so far as overlooking or being non-judgmental about such syncretisms as Pachamama worship in Latin America, right? So there's some questions about, it goes all the way up to the top, about the pagan revival in even Christian institutions. Yes, he is. Is that Pachamama in the background? It could be. Right. So these are all streams that are not really talked about in the over legalistic approach to understanding all these different trials. And I know when I say over legalistic, because in preparation for this session here, I was rereading all the official indictments of Humble Harv Weinstein and Sean Combs with all his AKAs, all of that. Obviously, this is all deadening. And the problem is, and this is what I hope to at least partially redress today, the problem is that we cannot understand what's going on in American culture, society, and politics on a strictly legalistic or even constitutional documentary perspective. As important as these are, there's the metaphysical, the pagan, the spiritual warfare, as certain Christian denominations would have it. They're an operation here that are not going to be resolved in the classroom. They will be addressed with you and me and your above average audience of hundreds of thousands. And I'm also trying to point the way for other independent researchers to start looking at this instead of just reading the rehashed material in New Yorker magazine or the New York Times. It's legalistic theater. And speaking of theater, my prediction here and now is that humble Harvey Weinstein is going to walk on the retrial. They're counting on the fact that there are certain irregularities and procedure. Again, this is one of the dangers of an over legalistic approach to understanding much deeper problems in our political culture that rest upon downright evil, right? And in prepping for this is why I think that he's going to walk, he being Harvey Weinstein. And I only got a couple of days notice on this, but so I scrambled like anything to find out more about Harvey Weinstein as I could. And I discovered, because I think the answers to all these large questions lies in the little people who are on the periphery of the case, who aren't really name checked because they're not celebs. This is where we have to look. And then in keeping with that method that I use in cultural forensics, I found out that the defense team of Harvey Weinstein is contracted the professional assistance of one Dr. Jo Ellen Demetrius. She is a professional trial consultant. She is going in there and handpicking who the jury will be. There'll be 12 people, and all she needs to do, I don't mean to minimize her skill. I've read some of her documents, including, by the way, the elaborate questionnaire that was handed out to prospective jurors in the trial of one Orenthal James Simpson. She was the trial consultant for the Dream Team, Johnny Cochran, all the way down, Jo Ellen Demetrius. She's been at it for 40 years. And it so happens, because I've been around so long, I know a lot of people. It so happens that one of my former colleagues at the university where I once worked, she got disgusted with academia, and she went to work for Jo Ellen Demetrius. And I got a sort of an inside look to this unknown world of jury consultation. And it's they have their own professional interest organization. I think it's called Trial Consultants of America. And they get paid a pretty penny to read the individuals off the street who are going to be put on the jury of peers. So now they go through all their socials, they see anything that'll disqualify them, or find, conversely, people who will be sympathetic to their clients, including Harvey Weinstein. And it only takes one person to gum up the entire works. Is that Jo Ellen Demetrius?
Yes.
Okay, it's not a recent picture, but but these trial, they tend to be kind of glam, you know what I mean? Because they're often on, you might know their names and not remember their names, but they're often called upon for Fox News, CNN, Time Magazine. She has all her media appearances here. So they have to look kind of glam in order to hold a candle to people. Like in America, there's this woman called Nancy Grace. She's quite obnoxious. And all the newscaster females have to be, you know, at a high level grade of appearance. So that's her, all right. But more importantly, she got a doctorate in psychology and figured out a way that she could parlay her graduate training in psychology into a career, which is determining the fate of high-level, high-profile clients, of which Harvey Weinstein is one of many. And I'll post this on my Patreon if you want to read more about Jo Ellen Demetrius and some other people that I was reacquainted with. Anyway, one of my colleagues went to work for her around the time of the O.J. Simpson trial. That's when I got a first look at how the justice system really works from the inside out, right? And then she later, I found out in researching for today, that she started her own firm, which she recently sold to another larger firm that specialized in jury consultation. All right. So these people know how to read ordinary individuals drawn from the jury pool. And that's why I think I'm saying that Harvey Weinstein's going to get a much more lenient treatment this time around. Right. For one thing, he's going to show up in a walker or a wheelchair. His health is a mess. He looks quite aged now after being in jail for a while. And I think the sympathy card is going to be played a lot more heavily. And plus, he's being retried in a situation where all the revelations about Sean Combs makes his transgression seem mild in comparison, right? And we also, the third argument why I think that Harvey Weinstein's going to walk is that a sensational trial that took place in Los Angeles, the trial of two brothers, the Menendez brothers, that's been reopened as well. They were accused of murdering, shotgunning to death their parents. It was a parricide, both of them. And that trial is opening up. So if a trial like so sensational as that can be reopened, then all of this is up for grabs. And by the way, I also, there's them in one of the, I don't know if that's Lyle or the other one, but I also know indirectly the brother or the man who wrote the first, I think the first book, one of the first books on the Menendez killings. His name's Randall Sullivan, an excellent writer. I know his brother, who's an attorney in LA. I think last I heard he was with the Public Defender's Office in Los Angeles. So I have some an inside feel for how these celebrity trials play out. Now, if I may continue, there's another character here in the trial of our celebrity friends, such as Sean Combs, whose name that many people would not, or most people will not know. His name is Damon Williams. And until December of last year, Damon Williams was the U.S. Attorney General of the Southern District of New York, the premier of the Showcase Federal Court, right? This is the same court where all the famous celebs from Samuel Bankman-Fried, Sean Combs, you name it, white-collar crimes, high-level organized crime figures are tried in this court. So this is the first African-American, Damon Williams, who was appointed to this prestigious position. People who occupy that slot are destined for higher political office. Governor, perhaps even president, that's Damon Williams. He's one of the so-called little people or peripheral people who are actually the important people in understanding these cases. Again, strict jurisprudential understandings of this case is insufficient. You need cultural forensics. So I checked into Damon Williams's background, and he's the parents of Jamaicans. Why is that important? Right? Bloodlines is everything. I already talked about Jezebel Lopez and her Puerto Rican background and the whole Santeria lineage there, the blood knowledge that goes into her act, into her profession, into her coming together with another practitioner of pagan ritual, sex magic ritual, which you'll get into in a moment, and that would be Sean Combs. So Damon Williams' parents is from Jamaica. And I said, oh yeah, I think I remember that one of the founding fathers of America, Alexander Hamilton, who's being celebrated currently in America because of some stage play in Broadway, he had this sort of binational relationship with the Caribbean to the continental U.S. And Jamaica, the Caribbean nations in general, had a very, very close relationship to continental America that connects to the legacy of colonialism and, of course, the legacy of African slavery. It's been a close relationship. Many racial laws and customs were, in fact, first workshopped in colonies of Britain at the time of Jamaica. So I said, well, you know what? Wherever there's British Empire, there's Freemasonry. I know that's a rule of thumb. It's a long-distance overseas trade organization that's held together by occult ritual. Most of your viewers know this, so I don't need to go into it. So I went into the specifics of it, and indeed, in Jamaica, it's shot through with all these lodges. And I think I haven't found the receipts on this yet, but if some other independent researcher is so inclined, they might find that Damon Williams' family is one of the offshoots of these Freemasonic bloodlines that settled the colony of Jamaica, which still maintains this semi-colonial feudalistic relationship with the United States and Britain. Because remember the whole reggae and spa boom of the 1950s in London and in Britain in general, and then global, right, as symbolized by Bob Marley, who himself, by the way, was biracial. His daddy was an Englishman. Right?
Have you seen that we've had Bob Marley's daughter on recently? She's come out of hiding.
I saw the first one.
Yeah.
I have not seen the follow-up episodes. And I've done a whole workup. I read the entire 20-something novels of one Ian Fleming. Right. And as you know, he had an estate in Jamaica. It's called Golden Eye. And Chris Blackwell wanted to told Bob Marley to buy it. He decided not to. And instead it wound up in the hands of Chris Blackwell. I don't know if he still owns it, but he's the founder of Island Records. So you see here that the recording business, the music business is all intertwined or interlarded with these centuries old, really, relationships here. And part of that relationship, and this is where we're getting to the sex magic part of it, the fun stuff, right? This is where the sex magic comes in. Part of this relationship in Jamaica and other communities, slave communities in the American South, for example, right, where interracial relationships were punishable by death, either through custom or by law. Public lynchings didn't really end until probably the early 1960s in America, right? And some have argued that police killings are a modern form of the continuing policing of a Black male sexuality. And here is where Sean Combs enters in the picture, because he, in his elevated station, and we know that he was handled by people higher than him, including one Clive Davis, and there's people above Clive Davis who need to be looked at. Damon Williams is also part of this complex because he quit, right? He's being saved for higher office, so he cannot be tainted by an association, good or bad or indifferent, with the P Diddy case or these other landmark Southern District of New York cases. He's got to tidy up his reputation before they make him into the new president of the United States, Damon Williams. But before he gets to that point, I want to start independent researchers to start digging in on his background. So anyway, let me finish the thought about P. Diddy. P. Diddy, one of his main functions was to stage these Mandingo parties. And I won't go into the specifics of it. You could look it up on your favorite search engine, Mandingo. Most of the people first became acquainted with the concept of the Mandingo party with a Black comedy movie called A Haunted House, which came out in 2013. There's a whole scene in there of Mandingo parties. And apparently this has been an informal get-together to practice ritualistic sex magic between Black men and white women. There was a book that was published in 1975 by a guy named Kyle Onscott, I think. I'm getting his last name wrong. It's titled Mandingo, and it became a network television film as well. It went into the popular culture. Now it's resurfacing, but so far as I know, I have never heard the name of Sean Puff Daddy Combs being mentioned in that context. Now, the man who made Puff Daddy, we all know this by now, the man who made Puff Daddy had his Mandingo get on his knees